So hello everyone, I'm Dr. Trish Murray, physician, author, and health catalyst speaker. And this presentation is related to the data from a study we did through my office, Discover Health Functional Medicine Center, on fermented black garlic. You see, fermented black garlic is a food that when you take it, studies have shown improves inflammation, cholesterol, and improves and stabilizes blood sugar and can boost your immune system. And so we decided to do a 12-week study with people in our local area. And so tonight I'm presenting the data from that study. So I'm going to share my screen now. So here we go. So again, Discover Health Functional Medicine Center with fermented black garlic study. So first of all, let's talk a bit about what is black garlic. I also wanted to, so what is black garlic? Black garlic is a hard neck variety of garlic that has been fermented through a slow cooking process at a very steady humidity and a very steady temperature, at a very low, steady temperature. And as the process unfolds over time, the color of the garlic turns literally black, from white or yellow that you know garlic to be, to a black color from the cooking process. And fermented black garlic is a very strong antioxidant. It is considered a health food that has been eaten in Eastern Asian countries for centuries. And the fermented black garlic for this study was grown locally by the folks at White Gates Farm in Tamworth, New Hampshire. That farm is owned by Heather and Hank Letarte, and I had done a podcast, meaning on my regular podcast called Discover Health Podcast, I had interviewed Hank Letarte from White Gates Farm about black garlic because he was growing it and fermenting it. And he introduced me to the concept of the health benefits of black garlic. And after doing that podcast with him, I went off and researched some scientific studies on black garlic's health benefits and realized, wow, it does have many different health benefits related to inflammation and cholesterol and blood sugar. And so as a result, that's when we decided to put the study together. And I also did a podcast on Discover Health Podcast on the health benefits of black garlic. So if anyone listening is interested in learning more about black garlic in general or the health benefits of black garlic specifically, go to my website, discoverhealthfmc.com, go to the health library, and the very first thing that drops down in the link list or the menu will be the podcast. And so you can just click that and search for black garlic podcasts, and you can learn a lot more than what I'll be going over about the general benefits of black garlic and so forth. I won't be going over all those details tonight. But what are some of the cited benefits of black garlic cited by the National Center for Biotechnology Information? This was one of the sites in my research. And look at these list of benefits that were touted, loaded with antioxidants, so it's going to neutralize free radicals. It's going to help fight cancer growth, boost heart health and affect cholesterol. It's going to help cognitive function and preserve cognitive function. It's going to stabilize blood sugar, and it can boost the immune system. So I was very impressed with this list of possible benefits. And again, that's why we initiated the concept of asking folks in our local community, all of you listening and those that participated, to join us in this study. So what are the things we did in this 12-week study? Well, first of all, we put it out to the community who wanted to participate, and people signed up. Then I chose certain blood tests that people would have done before doing the study and starting to take the garlic, and blood tests that they had done after, so pre and post lab studies, in order to compare apples to apples and see whether people improved. Now, first thing we looked at, or one of the things we looked at, was blood sugar. And we tested 3 things around each person's blood sugar. One was fasting glucose. Everyone out there has had a fasting glucose done before. And that's your fasting blood sugar. You do it first thing in the morning and you fasted usually 12 hours. This is the most common test that is done by the traditional primary care doctor. A couple other tests, one is called the fasting insulin level. So also when you're fasting, we check your insulin level. This is not a test that's done all the time on everyone. It's many times done if you are having insulin resistance, or your blood sugar, your fasting blood sugar is over 100, or if you are concerned with prediabetes. So not everyone in our study will have had this done pre and post, because the pre-labs we started with, someone could have had anywhere within 6 months of starting the study. So if you had your blood work done 4 months before we started the study, when we asked you to join and then you chose to join, you may not have had a fasting insulin done. So not everyone in the study had a pre and post fasting insulin level. So you'll notice I'm not going to go over that piece of data, but I'm definitely going to be talking about fasting glucose. The third test around sugar is hemoglobin A1C. A hemoglobin A1C is a test, again, that's done on people typically that either have insulin resistance or have diabetes. And it shows the average level of blood sugar over the past 2 to 3 months for someone. So again, not everyone had that test done within 6 months of starting the study. And most of the people we did do it post, but of course we can't necessarily compare. But everyone had a fasting glucose before and a fasting glucose after, so I'll definitely be presenting the data on that. The next category of blood work is the cholesterol. And everyone's out there has had a traditional lipid panel where they test for your total cholesterol, your HDL, your LDL, and your triglycerides. That's the traditional lipid panel. Not everyone out there has probably had what's called an advanced lipid panel. Some people will have had it pre and post, and I will present the data from that. But not everyone in our whole study had the advanced lipid panel both pre and post. Some people may had only a traditional panel in the beginning and a traditional panel at the end. Some people had a traditional panel in the beginning and wanted an advanced panel at the end. But again, we do have good comparisons of the total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, triglycerides, and so on. The third category that had to do with the blood work that we used in the study was a marker for inflammation. And this marker listed here, the high sensitivity C-reactive protein, is the most sensitive marker for inflammation and generalized inflammation in someone's body. So you'll notice that's a marker we use specifically for inflammation. Now, the other thing we did for an objective pre and post evaluation of how people did from the black garlic is we had every member or participant in the study do what's called a medical symptoms questionnaire, pre and post. So what you see on the screen is a medical symptoms questionnaire. And you'll notice it's asking a person to rate themselves from 0, meaning you don't have that symptom at all, to a 4, which means that you would have it frequently and severely on a regular basis. So everything from earaches to headaches to chest pain to shortness of breath to mood swings, people are rating themselves and coming up with a grand total score at the end. Now, optimal health, everyone that's listening that participated in the study or is familiar with it, you know that optimal health is to score less than 30 on this questionnaire. And so, of course, we started with everyone filling one out before they started taking the black garlic. and then 12 weeks later when they completed the black garlic. Now, if anyone out there is interested in doing the medical symptoms questionnaire and you're not already a patient of ours, you can go to my website, discoverhealthfmc.com, and go across the horizontal menu to where it says Start Here. Click Start Here, and the very first item you'll see in the list is the medical symptoms questionnaire that you can take. Now, the next thing I want to go over before we get into the hard data is what's called the experimental attrition. What this has to do with, folks, is how many people signed up to participate and completed the entire study, and how many people dropped out for whatever reason. Meaning, if you notice what this says here at the top of the slide, the average dropout rate across all clinical trials in medicine totals approximately 30% of the people of any study end up dropping out for many, many different reasons. So let's go over our study, the numbers specific to the black garlic study. First of all, there were 31 people that signed up prior to starting the study to participate, that were gung-ho, they said, and they wanted to participate, a total of 31 people. Along the way, after getting going, 6 people total of the 31 dropped out. That's a 19.4% dropout rate. So first of all, I'll point out that our dropout rate was significantly less than the typical or average amount of people that drop out of a clinical study. So 25 people actually completed the entire study, did the blood work within 6 months of starting the study, did a medical symptoms questionnaire, purchased or got their fermented black garlic, started taking 1 clove of black garlic twice a day. And they did that consistently for 12 weeks. And then at the end of the 12 weeks, they filled out a new medical symptoms questionnaire, and they had new blood work done. Of the 6 people that dropped out, why did they drop out? Well, 2 people in our study dropped out due to gastrointestinal distress from taking the garlic. You see, people with irritable bowel syndrome, some people with irritable bowel syndrome will get an exacerbation or a worsening of their symptoms due to eating garlic. That's just the way it is. And 2 people had to stop taking it because their IBS got so much worse. 1 person dropped out of the study due to illness, but that illness had absolutely nothing to do with taking garlic. It's just they got ill and they chose not to continue to take the garlic and continue to participate in the study. And 3 of the 6 really dropped out from follow-up, meaning they never followed up with us, they never came back in to get their blood work done and fill out their medical symptoms questionnaire. And again, 6 people, 19.4% is actually a good level of dropout rate, meaning it's significantly less than the typical 30%. So now let's start looking at the definitive results. So first of all, the medical symptoms questionnaire, the MSQ. The number of 20, so again, remember throughout this data review now, the total is 25 people. So how many people's MSQ from when they filled it out to after the 12 weeks of doing the garlic filled it out had an improvement in their total number on the medical symptoms questionnaire? 17. Folks, that's 68% of people had a decrease in the grand total of their medical symptoms questionnaire, and a decrease in their overall symptoms that bothered them. How many people stayed the same, meaning the score they got in the beginning and the score they got at the end were exactly the same? 2 people, which is 8%. And finally, how many people worsened, meaning their score got worse and went up before starting taking the garlic and 12 weeks later at the end, was 6 people, which is 24%. So now let's look at some of the blood work. And let's start with sugar. So the fasting glucose. 15 of the 25 people, their fasting blood sugar dropped at the end of the study from, for whatever reason might be, but the idea is they took 1 clove of black garlic twice a day, and 60% of the 25 total people's blood sugar, fasting blood sugar, dropped in the 12 weeks. How many people's blood sugar either worsened or had no significant change was 10 people, which is a total of 40%. Now, I did want to take a moment to point out a few caveats. Of the total 15 where their blood sugar did drop, how many of those people had a clinically significant improvement in their overall health status? Meaning, if someone's fasting blood sugar is greater than 100, then they are, and less than 125. So between 100 and 125, someone is not diagnosed with diabetes. They're diagnosed with insulin resistance or pre-diabetes. And how many people that were in our study that had a fasting blood sugar greater than 100 dropped to a normal fasting blood sugar of less than 100 within the 12 weeks. And folks, there were as many as 6 people that did that, which was 24% of the total group. The other thing I would like to share with you, that's another caveat clinically, is that when you talk about glucose and blood sugar, at a fasting blood sugar, in the traditional medical model, anything less than 100 is considered normal. But when I talk with my clients and my patients, as you know, I try and talk about what's optimal. And in the functional medicine world, we talk about a blood sugar, a fasting blood sugar of optimally being less than 90. And how many people of the 15 that improved went from, let's say, a blood sugar in the 90s to less than 90, and there were 3 of those. So you'll notice there were as many as 9 people out of the 15 that not only did their blood sugar improve, but they had a, if you will, clinically significant change in their blood sugar. Now, of the people, let's go to the other side now, the red side, the worsened. Of the 10 people total where their fasting blood sugar went up, meaning supposedly it got worse. But remember, a fasting blood sugar less than 100 is considered normal and isn't considered insulin resistance or a concern, really. And what I point out here in the black is it says fasting glucose rose, yes, so they're in this got worse category, but their blood sugar never rose greater than 100, meaning they're in the normal range in the beginning, pre-study, and they were still in the normal range post-study, but their number did go up. So they ended up in the category of the fact that their blood sugar worsened. Of the total 10 people that are in this category of their fasting blood sugar getting worse, 5 of them, their blood sugar may have gone up, but it didn't become abnormal, meaning it didn't put them into the category of insulin resistance and it didn't make them diabetic or anything else. So only 5 of the 10 were in the pre-diabetic or diabetic range and their blood sugars did not improve and they actually may have gotten worse. All right. So let's shift now to the inflammation marker, the generalized inflammation marker, and it's called high sensitivity C-reactive protein, or hsCRP. You'll notice from the statistics here on the slide that 14 out of 25 people, their high sensitivity C-reactive protein decreased. So 56% of the people in the 12-week study dropped their inflammation marker and improved it. 5 people out of the 20, or 20%, had an unchanged hsCRP, which means it was the same pre-study and it was the exact same number post-study. And finally, how many people worsened, meaning their inflammation marker actually increased, was 6 people out of the total 25 people, so that's 24%. So let's shift gears now again and go into lipids or cholesterol. So what is the effect, let's look at the numbers connected to total cholesterol. So in the total cholesterol, looking at pre and post numbers, the other thing I want to make sure you understand is that I looked for an actual definitive clinical change, meaning a person's total cholesterol changed greater than or equal to 10 points. So that, if you change one number, meaning you just go from a total cholesterol of 200 to 199 or 205 to 206, that's really not a difference. Clinically, it's not significant. But if someone drops from 210 down to 199, that's more than 10 points, and that would be clinically significant. So with that being said, how many people of the study improved and therefore decreased their total cholesterol by greater than or equal to 10 points? There were 8, which is 32%. How many people's total cholesterol went up 10 or more points? 8, which again is 32%. And how many people had unchanged total cholesterol, which means they didn't go up or down greater than or equal to 10 points? They stayed about the same. There were 9, which is 36%. So actually, I think that one's a sort of a toss-up on total cholesterol. Let's look at triglycerides. Again, we're going to say that when we're looking at triglycerides and the lipids, which are fats, did the number pre and post statistically significantly change? Meaning, did it change equal? We're going to stay with the same amount. Was there a change greater than or equal to 10 points? The number of people in the study where their triglycerides improved and dropped greater than or equal to 10 points was 8 people, which was 32%. How many people in the study worsened, meaning their triglyceride numbers increased greater than or equal to 10 points? And that was 11 people, which is 44%. And how many people were unchanged, meaning you didn't increase or decrease more than 10 points? It was 6 people at 24%. However, I want to make a point. You got to realize that a person's triglycerides are recommended to be less than 150. So however, the number that increased greater than 10 points, but not greater than 150. So someone's points may have gone up greater than 10 points, but maybe they went from 70 to 85. That's still normal. It's still less than 150. And that was 8 people. So if you take those 8 people out of the 11, you're down to only, this means that only 3 people or 12% actually increased their triglycerides to greater than 150 or an actually abnormal level. The other thing I'll point out, folks, is that our brain is 60% fat, and we don't want our triglycerides to be too low. I actually get concerned when someone has a triglyceride level less than 50 or 60, because we're depleting our brain then and our body of healthy fats. So actually, sometimes for someone's triglyceride level to have increased a bit and not gone above 150 is a good thing and a healthy thing. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out. Let's move on to HDL. Now, most people out there know that your HDL is the good guy. And what I like to talk about HDL as the garbage truck. It's the protective lipoprotein that takes the bad fats and the inflamed fats and takes them to the liver, which is the garbage and the waste dump, to get rid of it. So it doesn't get in and develop plaque, and it doesn't lead to heart disease. So HDL is the protective thing. Now, HDL also doesn't shift as much as LDL and total cholesterol and triglycerides does. So you'll notice in our statistics, we're going to look at change of greater than or equal to 5 points, not 10 points. So how many people improved? Of the total 25 people, 9 people had an improvement or an increase in their HDL number, which was 36%. So just looking at, did someone's HDL increase and go up greater than or equal to 5 points? 9 people did, and that's 36%. How many people, if you will, quote unquote, worsened, meaning their HDL number dropped and dropped greater than or equal to 5 points? That was 6 people at 24%. How many people were unchanged, meaning their HDL did not go up or down greater than or equal to 5 points? That was 10 people, or 40%. Again, I want to point out a caveat. When we talk about the 6 people that worsened, meaning their HDL total dropped from a set number greater than or equal to 5 points less. And you would think that's bad for everybody. But I want to point out that an HDL total number that is greater than 75 is actually not necessarily protective. An HDL greater than 75 has been shown by more recent studies to be a sign of possibly dysfunctional HDL, which means the garbage truck is not going where it's supposed to go, or it's not working properly. And 3, who had HDL that dropped from greater than 75 down into a more normal range of 75 or less, is actually an improvement. So these 3 could actually be included in the improved group rather than the worsened group, which would rise our improved number from 9 plus 3 is 12, which that's why I have the asterisks next to the improved group, and you see a 48% number there. So now let's talk about LDL, the bad guy. And again, if people have heard me speak about the advanced lipid panel, then you know that the LDL particle number is unique to the advanced lipid panel. And it's like looking under the hood of your car more specifically, rather than just walking around it and looking at it in general. So the LDL particle number is an extremely important number in considering someone's risk for cardiovascular disease. Now, what is it? The LDL particle number is a measurement of the, quote, true particle number, meaning if you take a sample of blood and you take a portion of that sample and you count every single LDL particle in it, you come up with an LDL particle number. So it means how many LDL particles there are in that actual blood sample. Now, in a moment, I'm going to talk about, many of you have heard me speak of this analogy of if you have a laundry basket and you fill it with balls, and you've heard me talk about the fact that you could fill it with basketballs, and if you imagine a laundry basket, of how big a typical laundry basket is, and if you fill it with basketballs, you're only going to fill it with like 5 or 6. If you take the basketballs out and you then put in softballs, you're probably going to fit 50 or 60 in there, which is 10 times as many. If you take the softballs out and you fill it with ping pong balls, gosh, you're going to fill it with like 500, which is 100 times as many. And what I want you to understand about the LDL particle number is you don't want ping pong balls and you don't want softballs. You want basketballs. The bigger, the better of LDL particles. And studies have shown that the excess risk with normal LDL total cholesterol, so your total cholesterol is normal, but your LDL particle number is too high, meaning you got too many softballs or ping pong balls in your laundry basket, the LDL particle number is the most important overall number to determine someone's cardiovascular risk. Because what happens that causes the basketballs, the big particles, to become softballs or ping pong balls is they become inflamed they become toxic. And when that happens, they get denser and smaller and tighter. And then what happens is those dense particles go and they bang into the wall of your blood vessel and cause a wound. And then that wound starts the development of a plaque. And it's plaques that break off and go downstream that cause heart attacks or strokes. So here is an image now illustrating this LDL-P or LDL particle number. And the idea of the basketballs is what we want, folks. We don't want softballs and we don't want ping pong balls. And the more ping pong balls or softballs you have, that drives up your total particles in your laundry basket. So the reason I went over all of that for you to understand is that the LDL particle number is one of the things that stood out in the study. Now, not everyone, not all 25 people did a pre and post advanced lipid panel, because remember, the traditional lipid panel is what some people had done pre, and then they maybe had a traditional lipid panel at the end, so they never even had an LDL particle number done. Or some people may have had the the advanced lipid panel done pre and post, or someone may have had a traditional lipid panel done in the beginning, pre, and then did an advanced lipid panel post, but I couldn't use them in this example because I can't compare apples to oranges. I can only compare apples to apples. So the number of the study participants that did do a pre and post advanced lipid panel was almost half at 12 people. Now of these 12, let's look at the amount of people of the 12 that their LDL particle number decreased. And that was 8. And that's 66%. How many of those 12, their LDL particle number got worse, meaning they developed more more ping pong balls and more softballs? Was 4, which is 33%. So just here is, just to sort of make some points along the way of the study notes. First of all, participants during the study were given an opportunity to come together as a group. And also people were also given the opportunity to book a one-on-one appointment with me to review their individual results and receive personalized recommendations. Some study participants chose to have the advanced lipid panel, which I've just gone over at the end of the study, to gain a more complete picture of their cardiovascular health profile and risks. Now, again, if people are interested in this advanced lipid panel, and you want to learn more about it, again, go to my podcast, Discover Health Podcasts, and I've done an entire podcast on heart health and advanced lipid panel that you could be listening to and learning a ton. Next, results were only included in the analysis when a true comparison was available. Again, if someone had an advanced lipid panel in the beginning and had an advanced lipid panel at the end, then they were included in the study. If someone had a fasting insulin in the beginning and a fasting insulin at the end, then that was able to be compared. But not enough people had those done to be included in the data that I'm presenting to you now. This study was conducted for 12 weeks. Now, the other thing I want everybody to realize with the data I've presented to you is that we all started this study in like November of 2019 and did it for 12 weeks, for November, December, and into January. Folks, that's right over the holidays. The other thing is that we did not make any recommendations essentially to anyone other than to get their blood work done, fill out the medical symptoms questionnaire pre and post, and take 1 clove of black fermented garlic in the morning and the evening or twice a day for 12 weeks. That was the study. So at this time, I'm actually going to stop my share, and I want to come back together a bit and say to you, what do you think? Share your thoughts and ask any questions you may have. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and I'm going to come back on, and I'm going to unmute folks. And you can even unmute yourselves. And I think I'm doing it. And if anyone has a particular, what do you think? What did you see, or do you have particular questions? Do you think that you saw, would you say that it was a benefit based on the data I just presented, or would you say not?
I would say it was benefit. I'm back to eating black garlic.
Great. Anybody else?
I think the study showed what you had heard before, that, yeah, it's definitely a benefit to most people.
Yeah.
Yes, and of course, in anything you do in clinical medicine, you're never going to see 100%, improvement.
Everybody's unique.
That's just not possible. You look for majorities, you look for statistical significance and things like that.
Could what people eat affect the study also? You didn't require us to eat anything special or change our diet at all. So could that have an effect also on how it affected some people, like got worse?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you realize that we did this study over the holidays,
Yeah.
you would think that people are more lax, typically, the 5 or 10 pounds people typically put on during the holidays or whatever it might be. But the idea here is that, wow, that was a tough time of year to be doing this study.
Yeah.
And you would think that it would have caused the numbers to go in the other direction, showing more worsening or more problematic numbers for people, which in my opinion shows that, wow, the numbers were impressive in regards to the fact that there were significant percentages of people that showed a decrease in their inflammation and so on.
Yeah.
Are there other studies going on now throughout the country or world, or how does this compare?
That I would have to look into. I mean, this is kind of unique that we did this. It's not typical for a primary care or a specialist like myself to reach out to their own community and do this type of a study. Studies are done mostly through universities and things like that. You can just Google, fermented black garlic research studies, which is what I did originally. Some were done on humans, some were done on rats or other animals or mice or things like that, which happens all the time. But no, I wouldn't say that there's a lot of large studies testing fermented black garlic, because of course, it's not going to make any pharmaceutical company any money. And to do this in a big, large way and an institutional way would be expensive and complicated and those types of things. But, in our little way, it's our way of working with the community and seeing what results we get. And then, of course, doing what we're doing right now is sharing the results and seeing what you think.
Are you going to publish the results anywhere?
Good question. I haven't thought that far ahead. Right now, I have some other things going on. I'll show you a slide when we finish up here in a second that I have you may have heard, I have a new book coming out. It's launching the 25th of this month on Amazon. It'll literally cost you 99 cents to get it on Kindle, and we'll be doing a huge marketing thing over the next few weeks. Also on June 25th, which is the day of the launch, the first day of the launch, that evening at 6 o'clock, I'm going to do another webinar. This particular book called No More Band-Aids 2.0, Finding Answers in a Broken Medical System, is a collaborative book. I have written a book, I've written one of the chapters, and my chapter is called The Missing Link to Healthy Aging. So if you want to hear what that chapter is really about, the missing link to healthy aging, you need to come on June 25th and you need to buy my book. But also you will be introduced on a webinar to all the other authors. And there's different MDs, DOs, and folks in the functional naturopath that have written chapters on multiple different topics, from hormones to physical movement to autoimmunity to many different things. So it's really exciting to be involved in this book.
When will the book be available to buy?
The book will be available as the launch on that day, Thursday, June 25th, and we'll be sending out links where you can link to it and be able to get it off Amazon. And one of my goals, folks, is to become, with this particular launch, a bestseller. So I really would appreciate it if you would buy for 99 cents the Kindle copy of the book and ask all your friends to buy it too, and really help us make this a bestseller. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I came in late on this webinar, and I apologize for that. I didn't take part in the study either, and so I'm not in a great position to comment. From what I'm seeing, however, the study is quite limited in terms of numbers, and given the small study size, there's a fair number of what you characterized as worsening sides to it. And so I think it's somewhat inconclusive in my mind. But having said all that, black garlic is so darn good, I'd eat it just anyway and recommend it to anyone.
Yep. Well, again, if you read a lot of natural health-based studies, you are not going to see thousands upon thousands of people in them. You're going to see, 25, 100, obviously, yes, 25 is a low number. I get that for sure. But you're going to see 100 or less in most of the type of studies that are done on the holistic perspective, because, of course, it's not making any pharmaceutical companies or any company really a lot of money. And so how do you pay for the study? But yes, your points are taken. It is limited information, but as you say, black garlic is a natural thing. It's obviously a natural food. It is from a plant. It's fermented, and it tastes good for most people. Most people that have eaten it, they say it's pretty darn good. I say it's the consistency of like a gummy bear, and its first taste is pretty significantly sweet, actually. But I would say that the aftertaste is definitely a little bit garlicky. So it depends on what your interests are. But most people, when we heard feedback, really enjoyed it.
Yep.
So Trish, go ahead.
Yep, go ahead.
Well, the other point, the only other point I would make is that, as you said, Trish, the study took place over a time frame that is a challenging one nowadays. And there were not additional controls over the rest of the diet. And so obviously that renders it more difficult to draw a conclusion about a specific foodstuff addition when anything could have been happening, and probably was, with the balance of one's diet.
Absolutely. And we have to keep all of those things in mind, for sure.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Trish, Christmas was actually a problem for me with cookies at Christmas time. However, when the study was over, I stopped taking it, even though I had some, and realized as a personal observation that my back was starting to hurt again. So I started taking the black garlic again, and it did seem to relieve. So in additional personal things. So.
Right. So
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah, I noticed a whole a change in my system too. That's why it's like, so I'm really pleased it helped other numbers too, which I was hoping it would do. But I did notice a difference in my system. So when I ran out of it, it was like, oh no, I need that.
Yeah, I want that.
Yeah, it does help.
And I will say that the majority of people at the end, when I asked them subjectively, did you significantly see a big improvement overall, or did you notice a big improvement? Yes, some people, like the people that just spoke, made some comments. Overall, most people said, I don't know that I noticed a big difference or not. But again, with the medical symptoms questionnaire, you saw significant, like, what was it, 56% that had an improvement in their MSQ, or the medical symptoms questionnaire. So it's just quite interesting.
Yeah.
And Trish, I'm planning to continue taking it. I may not take it every day, but I'm continue to take it. So what I'm interested in is, say, after a year, what those particle numbers look.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that would be interesting to do with anyone that plans on continuing to take it, whether they take it consistently every day or whether you take it numerous times a week. I mean, I wouldn't take it once a month, but if you make it part of your regular diet and you get it on a regular basis and you take it, it would be interesting, to repeat people's especially the advanced lipid panel when it comes to cholesterol. And in the advanced lipid panel is included a inflammation marker of hsCRP. So you kind of get both of those done all at once. And of course, everybody gets a fasting glucose every year, every couple of years. So that's not an unusual number to be
And
followed.
also what helped me, Trish, and may hold some people back, is the cost of the extra blood tests. And after you and I spoke, then I spoke to my insurance company, and they actually refunded the cost of it. So
Good.
it just goes through. You just have to put the paperwork in different.
Yeah.
Everybody is saying it was ordered by a doctor.
Well, that's great.
I'd be interested in having one in a year too, because I really, if 3 months made a difference, I'm thinking a year is going to really make a.
Yeah.
Great.
So Trish, do you remember in any of your readings of other studies, whether there was a follow-up afterwards, if people stopped taking it, what happened, or if they took it, if there was?
Usually studies don't do that. You know, well, let me correct myself in the essence. Some studies are set up to have the group, a certain portion of the group randomly, let's say, in a randomly controlled trial, are set up so that some people are on a medicine, let's say, and then some are not. And then somewhere in the middle of the study, it's randomly shifted and people are changed in what they're taking, but nobody really knows. This is not that level of a study. So, and again, it's not something that they've been looking at with fermented black garlic on a regular, you know, in that way. So no, I would say it'd be very unlikely for that type of data to be able to be found in a journal. I can search it out, but I don't think I'd be able to find it. I did not find anything like that when I originally searched and read the articles on it.
I didn't read the podcast. I'm interested to go see the interview that you had with the farmer and when he started this, and I'm guessing he takes it.
I think so, and I think Heather, there's a Heather here, it doesn't say the last name. Heather Letarte, are you with us? I'll mute here a second. Might not be. Heather Letarte.
It is me. I am here.
Oh, great. So that's Heather and Hank Letarte from White Gates Farm. And Heather, tell us a little bit about, first of all, the process of fermenting the garlic, and then also tell us about whether you and Hank take it and what your input is on it.
Well, we do take it, but we tend, by the time the process is done, and we've done so much of the the process to make it, by the time it's, you know, we have some people who want to buy it. And so we end up selling it before we can take it ourselves. But if we had an ample supply, I think we would take it every day. But, you know, it's the same thing as like we get the pieces of chicken that are frosted or, you know.
The leftovers.
Yeah. So when we have a batch of black garlic come out and it's a little hard and tough to eat, then that's the one we get. And we'll swallow it whole at that point. But it does take a while to make. It's about 192 hours at a specific temperature and moisture to make a batch. So it takes a long time to make a batch. But I find the benefits myself, I think when I am taking it or able to take it on a consistent basis, some of the things that bother me in general tend to go away. And I don't know if that's just me thinking positively about it or if it's really.
Probably the black garlic.
That's great.
But I think it is the black garlic. I like to think it is.
Yeah, right.
How did you get into it? You know, how did you decide to do it?
I think we stumbled upon it while we were going into, we actually have gone into producing garlic in general in a broader sense. So we're growing more garlic. We're developing products from our garlic, such as our spicy garlic sauce and some garlic skate pesto, and working with a kitchen in Meredith that does the production for us and labels it for us. So that's what started it, was just talking to some garlic farmers, and one of the garlic farmers mentioned it, and we started looking at it.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, please keep it coming, because there's at least 3 or 4 of us on this.
Yes, we'll do the best we can.
Heather, what was the name of your farm again?
It's White Gates Farm.
Right up on the screen now, folks. So special thanks, of course, go out to Hank and Heather Latard at White Gates Farm in Tamworth, New Hampshire, for supplying us with the quality, locally grown garlic. And Heather, if you want to say your website, go ahead and go for that too.
That is www.whitegates-farm.com. So the little dash is in there.
And the other thing, folks, is that Discover Health we have been and we will continue to collaborate with White Gates Farm, and we will take orders for the fermented black garlic every 4 to 6 weeks. So our wonderful health coach here, as you know, Trish Chaput, and her email address is discoverhealthcoaching@gmail.com. If you're interested in emailing and learning more about how to get involved in getting the garlic on a 4 to 6 week basis, just let us know and we will communicate with the Latarts and get it here if you're closer to us. If you're obviously closer to them down in Tamworth, then obviously contact them directly, whichever works best for you. So thank you so much for coming. And if you are interested in understanding more about your own health profile, please reach out to us, of course, at my office, and the phone number's there on the slide. You also can set up an appointment with me. And if someone is not been a patient of record with us before, just to let everybody out there know that you can go to my website, discoverhealthfmc.com, and there is a place on the website to schedule a free 30-minute introductory consult with myself or the health coach Trish. On Wednesday afternoons is my time, and on Thursday mornings is health coach Trish.
Trish, before you leave, I want to thank you for all that you do and reaching out to the community and the stuff that you share. It's really
Thank you so much, Candy.
Totally appreciate it.
Buddy. I really appreciate it. And there's the cover. I know folks may have seen the survey we sent out asking for input on the title. But here's the cover, and here's what the book will look like. I understand my image will also be on the cover, possibly. But No More Band-Aids 2.0: Finding Answers in a Broken Medical System. Again, launching Thursday, June 25th, to purchase off Amazon Kindle for literally 99 cents. The other thing is that evening at 6 o'clock, again, I'll be doing a webinar with myself telling about my chapter, which is the missing link to healthy aging. And also all the other authors will be here and they'll be telling you about their chapter. So don't miss it if you have an interest in No More Band-Aids, Finding the Answers in a Broken Medical System.
Great.
So thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a wonderful night.
You too.
Thank you. Good night.